All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I had a little message I wanted to share with you today, talking specifically about how to better understand and interpret spiritual knowledge that we gain. And I wanted to start off by sharing with you um, kind of a little bit of my background in an experience with this. So I am a professional organizer. Before I became a coach, I just did home organizing for people. And throughout my training and experience working with different clients, I really came to see that there is this relationship between the tangible things in our lives and world and the intangible things in our lives and world. It's kind of funny. I was not planning on that, but look, my hand even looks different with the light. Intangible, tangible. Um, and so, for example, if you wanted in your life, let's say, um, to experience less chaos and more order, there's the physical, tangible experience of that. And I was helping people a lot with that by creating organization systems, getting bins, sorting their stuff, putting it away, getting rid of things. But if they wanted this to last, there was this internal component of creating order and peace and getting rid of the chaos and calm internally, the intangible bit, emotional, mental, they came to discover, and even energetic, peace, and that whatever happens here comes into play, manifests, is expressed physically after. So here's another way to put that. I would go into somebody's home and they were experiencing a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, maybe depression, anxiety, whatever. That would then show up in their space as disorder and things all over the place. There would be this chaos in their homes. And the cool thing about this is they can kind of go back and forth, right? So as we would clean up their space and environment around them, it would help lower the stress and anxiety and overwhelm, right? So then they started to feel more peace, more clarity, more calm, and that would be reflected in their homes, right? So the other bit can go, you have somebody who has a bunch of chaos in their home. They work really hard on thought work, on better emotional health, better mental health. And naturally, as they get healthier and healthier, this disorder in their home starts to go away. Okay. So this is kind of the principle I want to talk a little bit about here, is that there's this connection between the intangible and the tangible. And I use home organizing as kind of an example of that. Now, how does this relate to the topic of better understanding our spiritual experiences and revelation? And the reason, okay, let me back up. For those of you who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ, I am, so that is where my point of reference comes from. Others of you, it is my favorite thing to have this conversation with people outside my faith because I see it happening everywhere, right? So this is not, I believe this is accessible to all of us as human beings, as children of God. We all have some innate access to knowledge and understanding beyond ourselves, an intangible version, right? Like I can pick up a book, read all this information. This is a tangible way for me to gain knowledge, right? But there are a lot of practices out there for ways to get that intangible knowledge, right? So in my religion, we call it personal revelation. And it's essentially the ability to communicate with God, to ask Him questions, to receive guidance, to receive direction and understanding, really. And that happens through the Spirit. Now, when you are communicating, whatever your experience looks like with this, you're not talking to a person, right? They're not drawing you things. They're not, you're not experiencing it physically with your mortal eyes and like senses and stuff, right? It's often this intangible way of gaining information is something we feel. You feel it in your heart, you feel it in your body. Sometimes words can come to mind, sometimes images can come to mind. But here's what I want to say. This is what I want to get at. This is the important part. Those words and images that come to our mind are creations of our mind. Here's what I mean by that. So, and I want to make sure I'm not losing some of you, right? Okay, I'm not saying that thought you had, that image, that words you heard didn't come from God. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is God essentially has a feeling, right? So you think about music, you listen to it and you can feel what is being communicated through that music, right? Is this a sad song? Is this a triumphant song? Is this I'm having a really hard time, but I'm doing my best to hang in there song, right? Is this an excited celebration song? Is this just I'm having fun? Right? There's so much that can be communicated just through what we hear and feel, right? In fact, you go back to like classical music or even modern day video game music is really good examples of using music to tell a story, right? And I want that to be what you think about, right? So God, the universe, whatever your perspective is, communicates through this intangible, for the sake of the conversation, we'll call it music, right? When we hear that music, when we feel that music inside us, our brains are like, okay, I'm feeling something. My job is to identify what it is and if it's important. I'm having a hard time identifying what this is, right? It's intangible. So I'm going to take this intangible sense that I have and I'm going to create some sort of tangible representation of what I've felt, what I've sensed, right? And this intangible representation can take the form of words, thoughts, images that come to mind, right? And then it's much easier to communicate those to other people, right? I heard God tell me blank. Much easier to say than to play a song and have them get the same thing out of it, right? And this is where we get into what's really neat with, okay, hang on. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, an example I want to use is two different images, okay? So we're playing this music. It has this sense of being firm and strong and having opposition come up against it and not wavering, being cherished and looked up to. That's our music, right? You have person A who hears this song, you have person B who hears the same song, right? Person A then goes and says, I saw this warrior on a horseback in this battle armor, got dirt all over his face. He's got this sword he's wielding, and a shield, and he's just taking down the battlefield. He's protecting all of his loved ones like this awesome warrior. Person B is like, I saw a tree, this big, thick trunk and deep roots into the ground, and this forceful wind was coming and was trying to blow it away, but it was firm and it stood still. And everyone enjoyed the shade and the beauty of the apples and was able to survive because this tree existed. Okay? Now, if you had these two people and person B, let's say, was looking up to person A. Person A is giving a talk, is sharing this information, sharing this knowledge. Hey, this is what's going on. We need more warriors out in the world. Person B is going, I came here wanting to learn more about trees and planting trees and the importance of trees. And I'm not hearing them talk about trees at all. What's going on, right? That can be very confusing. So this is something that I see happen a lot when it's like a church leader. It could be a bishop, it could be a general authority, a conference talk, prophet, whatever, right? This person here has this experience. They're looking for a story about trees. They're only hearing stories about warriors. They're like, what's up? What's going on? Do you really hear God? Because the God I talk to talks about trees all the time. I'm not so sure you really get it, right? And this is why I think it's so powerful, so neat, and so important that in our church right now, we are being asked to really learn to better understand how to hear and feel the Spirit. To better understand, right? It's not just about praying more, about asking for help more with your questions. Yes, that's important, right? But it's about actually understanding what personal revelation means, how the Spirit works, right? Increasing our study and knowledge of that. Because when you understand the Spirit as being like this music that is playing, it doesn't matter if what's being talked about is being talked about with warriors. Okay, sorry, I keep having to pause and go help kids and then come back and finish. So if this seems a little bit off track, that's what's going on. Essentially, what I'm saying is if we view the Spirit as the music that is playing, it doesn't matter if somebody's talking about warriors or is talking about trees, because we can use the Spirit to help us understand, oh yeah, that's the same thing. This idea I have, it feels like this. It feels like strength. It feels like standing up. It feels like being firm. It feels like providing life and looking out for others. Is that the same thing I'm feeling, sensing from what is being said? Right? And sometimes we get wrapped up in the words, in what is or isn't being said, right? They're not using this word, they're not talking about this. And it's important to remember that person A is a person who heard music and is doing their best to put into words and create this image that will communicate with you. But if the words are not communicating with you, if that's not helping you, that's not comforting you, then it's good to go deeper and try and connect back to the music, connect back to the feeling, connect back to the Spirit. And what is the message, the Spirit, the feeling you get from what they're talking about? Can you put it into words like that? This is about unity. This is about connecting with each other. This is about whatever. Can you put into 5 words what is the feeling you get from what they're describing? And then look at your image of what you were expecting for and go, okay, are my 5 words showing up here? And I tell you, this is why you will hear people say things like, you get out of conference exactly what you need, right? If you're using this method, that happens because you're not focused so much on the words being said. You're focused on what is the music being heard. And the music gives you the ability to essentially speak your language, right? I speak the language of trees. I speak the language of warriors. If we got stuck at this surface level, we would be batting heads forever, right? But we know that Christ says he's going to teach the gospel to each of us in our own way, in our own language. And I think that goes beyond the literal Spanish, French, Chinese, African, whatever, right? It goes beyond that. And what are the spiritual languages? My spiritual language is trees. My spiritual language is warriors. And Christ in his spirit has the ability to bridge that gap. Super cool, right? So this is what I want you to do. The next time you're listening to somebody, whether it's a friend, a parent, a conference talk, a news outlet, whatever, try and zoom out. Stop focusing on the words they're saying. Just kind of let those go by as if you're watching cars. Just let them pass. Step back, drop in, say a little prayer, open up your heart, feel love, feel compassion, and start feeling. What is the feeling I'm getting from what they are saying? And base your response off of what you are feeling. Now, before we even get to responding, this exercise can be really helpful to just start observing, right? Have your normal conversation, have your normal fight with your spouse, whatever it is. But in the middle of that, can you step back a moment and say, what am I feeling here? What am I feeling from them? Not what are their words saying, not what am I hearing, not what does what they say make me think, right? What does it make me feel? Because their words will make you feel one thing. The spirit from where they are coming from can sometimes be something different. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's different. But can you take that little extra perspective? So that's my challenge for you today, and I wish you all the best. I'd love to hear your comments, your stories, your experiences of what the Spirit looks like for you. Have you ever practiced this? Do you have any stories with this? I'd love, love, love to hear your thoughts. Have a wonderful rest of the day.